You're standing in a warm room, the heating is on, you're wearing a sweater, there is no danger anywhere near you, and then a single piece of music hits a certain note, or someone says a certain sentence, or you remember something from 20 years ago, and suddenly the skin on your arms rises into a field of tiny bumps and the hair stands on end. Nothing touched you. Nothing changed in the room. Your body just performed an ancient reflex it was never asked to perform, for reasons it can no longer explain to you. We call them goosebumps. We treat them as a quirk, a harmless little shiver of the skin, the kind of thing you mention and then forget about. But here's the thing. That reflex is one of the oldest pieces of machinery your body owns. It is older than language, older than fire, older than your species. And the fact that it still fires today, in a heated room, over a song, is not a malfunction. It is a fossil. A working fossil buried in your skin, still twitching millions of years after the animal it was built for stopped existing. So the question this video is going to answer is not really, what are goosebumps? Anyone can tell you they're bumps on your skin. The real question is stranger than that. Why does an act of pure emotion, hearing a choir, watching a hero win, feeling a wave of awe, trigger the exact same physical response as standing naked in freezing wind? Why did evolution wire your feelings and your temperature into the same tiny muscles? And why has your body refused to let go of a reflex that, for a hairless animal like you, does almost nothing useful at all? Let's start with what is actually happening under the surface, because the mechanics tell you almost everything about the purpose. Attached to the base of nearly every hair on your body is a microscopic muscle called the erector pili. It is tiny. You have never consciously moved it in your life, and you never will. But when the right signal arrives, that muscle contracts, and when it contracts, it pulls the hair follicle upright and pushes the surrounding skin into a small raised mound. Multiply that by the roughly 5 million hairs on the human body, and you get the wave of texture rolling up your arm. Now, here's the part that matters. You do not send that signal on purpose. It comes from a much older part of your nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, the same circuit that runs your fight or flight response, the same circuit that dumps adrenaline into your blood when a car swerves toward you. Goosebumps are not a skin event. They are a nervous system event that happens to show up on your skin. And that is the first clue, because it tells you this reflex was never about the skin. It was about survival, routed through the oldest emergency wiring your body has. To understand what that emergency wiring was built for, you have to stop looking at humans and start looking at a cat. Picture a cat that suddenly sees a dog. In an instant, its fur stands straight up, its tail puffs out, and the animal appears to double in size. That is the exact same reflex you feel on your arm. Same muscle, same nerve, same trigger. But on the cat, it does something. A puffed-up animal looks bigger, more dangerous, harder to attack. In the split second before a fight, looking twice your real size can be the difference between a predator committing and a predator backing off. This is called piloerection, and it is everywhere in the mammal world. A threatened rat does it. A cornered wolf does it. A chimpanzee, confronted by a rival, will bristle the hair across its shoulders and back to look more massive and more formidable. And it serves a second purpose that has nothing to do with intimidation. When a furry animal is cold, raising its hair thickens the layer of trapped air against its skin, and trapped air is insulation. The fluffed-up coat becomes a warmer coat. So this one reflex was doing two life-or-death jobs at once, making the animal look bigger and keeping the animal alive in the cold. And now you can probably see the problem arriving. Both of those functions depend entirely on one thing your ancestors had and you do not. Fur. A thick, dense coat of body hair covering nearly the entire animal. The intimidation trick only works if raising your hair actually changes your silhouette. The insulation trick only works if you have enough hair to trap a meaningful layer of air. Take away the fur, and both functions collapse at the same moment. The muscle still contracts, the hair still tries to stand, but there is almost nothing left for it to lift. When did we lose the fur? This is where the story stops being about your skin and becomes about the deep history of your entire body. Somewhere in the last 2 million years, as our ancestors moved out onto the hot African savanna and became long-distance walkers and endurance hunters, the human line began shedding its coat. The leading explanation is heat. An animal that walks and runs for hours under an equatorial sun overheats fast, and a thick fur coat is a death trap in that environment. So our ancestors traded fur for something else entirely, bare skin packed with millions of sweat glands. And this is genuinely one of the strangest things about being human. We are, functionally, one of the sweatiest animals on the planet. Most mammals cool themselves by panting, or by seeking shade and simply waiting out the heat. We cool ourselves by soaking our skin in water and letting it evaporate, which means a fit human being can chase an antelope across open ground in the midday sun, an animal that is faster in a sprint but cannot dump heat the way we can, and simply keep going until the animal collapses from overheating. That trade, fur for sweat, is one of the reasons you exist. But evolution does not perform clean deletions. When natural selection removed our fur, it did not go back and carefully uninstall all the equipment that fur depended on. It left the wiring in place. It left the erector pili muscles, all several million of them, still attached to hairs that are now so fine and so short that in most places on your body you can barely see them. It left the nerve running to each one. It left the ancient trigger in the fight-or-flight system. The whole apparatus is still there, fully functional, connected to a coat that no longer exists. This is what biologists call a vestigial reflex. And the word vestigial is often misunderstood. People hear it and assume it means useless, broken, waiting to disappear. But that is not quite right. A vestigial trait is one that has outlived the original problem it was built to solve. It is an answer to a question the environment stopped asking. Your goosebumps are the answer to, how do I look bigger and stay warm in my fur? And your body is still shouting that answer into a world where you have no fur to raise and no predator circling in the grass. And yet the cold part of the reflex has never fully switched off, which is why the plain version still makes perfect sense. Step out of a warm shower into a cool bathroom and the bumps appear instantly. Walk into a freezing wind and your arms pebble over. That is the ancient thermoregulation circuit doing precisely what it did for your furred ancestors, contracting those muscles to fluff a coat that is no longer there. It fails to warm you because it cannot. But the machinery does not know that. It just executes the old command the moment your skin temperature drops, faithfully, uselessly, every single time. So the cold makes sense, but the cold is not the mystery. The mystery is the other trigger, the one that has nothing to do with temperature at all. Because you also get goosebumps from a piece of music, from the climax of a film, from a speech that moves a stadium to its feet, from standing at the edge of a canyon and feeling something vast open up inside your chest. There is no wind. There is no predator. There is no threat. And yet the exact same freezing and fighting reflex fires across your skin. Why would emotion, of all things, hijack a survival mechanism? The answer lives in that shared wiring we talked about earlier. Remember, goosebumps run through the sympathetic nervous system, the same circuit that handles fear, shock, and arousal. And that circuit does not draw a clean line between physical danger and overwhelming feeling. To your oldest nervous system, a sudden flood of powerful emotion and a sudden burst of threat look almost identical. A spike of adrenaline, a jump in heart rate, a surge of intensity that demands a response. So when awe or fear or profound beauty hits you hard enough, it trips the same alarm. And the alarm does the only thing it knows how to do. It raises your hair. Researchers have actually chased this into the lab, and the findings are more interesting than you might expect. Studies using music show that the moments most likely to give listeners chills are moments of sudden change, an unexpected key shift, a voice breaking through where you expected silence, a swell that violates what your brain predicted was coming. In other words, the reflex fires hardest not at beauty alone, but at surprise wrapped in emotion. Your ancient alarm system evolved to flag the unexpected, and a piece of music that defies your expectations is, to that system, a kind of safe surprise, thrilling instead of threatening. And there is a fascinating wrinkle here, because not everyone gets these emotional chills. Research suggests that people who experience frequent powerful goosebumps from music and art may have measurably different wiring, denser connections between the brain regions that process sound and emotion and the regions that handle physical sensation. If that holds up, it means the chill you feel at a song is not just a mood. It is a visible sign of how tightly your emotional brain and your bodily brain are stitched together. Some people are simply built with more wire running between feeling and flesh. But let's zoom out, because the emotional side of this reflex may not be a random accident either. Think about when these feelings hit hardest. Collective moments, a crowd singing together, a ceremony, a story of sacrifice and triumph, a voice describing something sacred. For a deeply social species, one that survived not by strength but by sticking together in groups, moments of shared awe and shared emotion were the glue that held the group as one. Some scientists have argued that the chill of collective awe is doing social work, marking the exact moments that bind people to a group, a belief, a shared cause. Once you see it that way, the picture flips completely. A reflex that looks useless Hair standing up on a body with almost no hair might have quietly picked up a second life. In our furred ancestors, it made you look bigger and kept you warm. In a naked storytelling, ritual-building species, that same circuit may have been recruited to mark the moments that matter most. The songs, the ceremonies, the shared terrors and triumphs that welded scattered individuals into a tribe. The hardware never changed. What changed was the meaning the human mind poured into it. There is even a strange linguistic fossil buried in the word itself. Goosebumps. Gooseflesh. The name comes from the plucked skin of a bird, the little raised dots left behind on a goose after its feathers are pulled. And feathers, like fur, like your own faint body hair, are raised by their own tiny muscles when the animal is cold or threatened. Different animal, different covering, same ancient reflex. Humans looked at their own bumpy arms, saw a plucked bird, and named the sensation after it, without ever realizing they were pointing at a mechanism hundreds of millions of years older than the goose. This is the pattern that shows up again and again when you look closely at the human body. We tend to think of ourselves as finished, as designed, as the polished endpoint of a long process. But your body is not a design. It is a running history. It is a stack of solutions to problems your ancestors faced, layered one on top of another, with nothing ever cleanly removed. The old code just gets left in place, quietly executing, long after the world it was written for has vanished. Goosebumps are one line of that ancient code, still running in the background of a heated room. So the next time it happens, and it will happen, a song reaches its peak, a memory surfaces, a cold draft crosses the room, and the skin on your arms rises into that familiar field of bumps. Understand what you are actually watching. You are watching a 2-million-year-old muscle try to raise a coat that vanished before your species had a name. You are watching a fear reflex answer a question no predator asked. You are watching the deep past twitch in the present, faithfully, pointlessly, beautifully, on the surface of your own skin. Because that is the real lesson hiding in something as small as a goosebump. Your body is not really yours alone. It is on loan from every ancestor who survived long enough to pass it forward, and it still carries their instincts, their emergencies, their answers to a vanished world. Most of that inheritance is invisible, but every so often, when the right note plays or the right cold touches your skin, the past reaches up through your body and briefly shows itself. The genes remember, even when you have forgotten what they were ever for. And your body is full of these hidden fossils, reflexes and instincts and leftover machinery that only make sense once you understand the ancient humans who first carried them. If you want to go deeper into that story, into how the bodies and minds we walk around in today were forged by the pressures of a world we can barely imagine, that is exactly what our full course explores, and you can find it linked in the description below. But for now, pay attention the next time your skin rises. Something very old is trying to tell you where you came from.